Welcome to the Rock the Stage Show. Each week, international media expert Rich Bontrager has in-depth and personal conversations with celebrities, top leaders, authors, speakers, and media professionals. Now, from the Rock the Stage studios, here's your host, the Trigger, Rich Bontrager.
Welcome to another edition of Rock the Stage Show. Sunday night, once again, the Trigger, Rich Bontrager here, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Mark it on your calendar. Make sure you never forget. That's when we premiere new episodes of Rock the Stage Show. Go year round. We look for the best people to have great conversation with, and you never know who's going to show up, from an actor to a director to an author to a comedian. You never know who's going to show up. And tonight we're back in the speaker world again, where I spent much of my career, and many of our guests have as well. But we're going to probe it a little bit deeperly tonight. We're going to get into the money of speaking. But, you know, there's an estimated 40,000 professional speakers in just the United States alone. In Canada, roughly maybe 20,000 more. That's 60,000 people that are in the speaking business. So ask yourself, why would you want to be in such a crazy competitive business to begin with? And we ask ourselves that very often. There's thousands more globally. So how do you ever make good money? How do you make a living when there are so many competing, and you're competing with Tony Robbins, Les Brown, and many, many other people? We're going to get into that whole conversation here tonight. Jane Atkinson is an author and business coach for the professional speakers. She's the founder of the Wealthy Speaker School, who often also has courses, communities, and coaching to people that want to get paid gigs. Paid speaking opportunities. Her books, The Wealthy Speaker 3.0, The Epic Keynote, and The Wealthy Speaker Daily Success Planner and Journal. We're going to maybe touch on some of those. But she's helping speakers speak for money. And she's also the host of the Wealthy Speakers Podcast, president of the Speaker Launcher Incorporated. Welcome, Jane Atkinson.
Hi.
Jane.
I'm happy to be with you, Rich. Thank
Great
you so
to have
much.
you. All the way from the Northland of Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Our good neighbors.
Our good neighbors, yes.
Hey, how is all that craziness right now? As we sit here on the United States side, you're on the Canadian border side, how is this craziness really being reflected as we listen to the news and the politician stuff?
Well, I mean, this is a very slippery slope to go down, Rich. But what I do want to say is that Canada is a country onto its own, and we like that, and we would like it to stay that way. So we have this thing in hockey in Canada where if you are under any kind of fire, it's elbows up.
Yeah.
Elbows up is when you're protecting yourself. And so Canada as a country has come together, elbows up. And I think that's probably all I need to say about it, is that we are quite happy right at the moment with our own sovereign nation.
Well, I have a lot of friends, family, good people. That the border is not the border. We're all one big family. I love my friends in Canada. I do.
Yeah.
By the way, before we get to the real questions here, I do have to ask you, do you ever get confused with a certain actress with the same name?
Actually, I believe she spells Jane with a Y, and nobody has ever confused me. But I have since cut my hair short, and so maybe they will start confusing me. But yeah, she's an amazing actress, and I think she might have janeatkinson.com, but I'm not sure.
Well, let's dive into this whole speaker world. You and I are speakers. We love the stage. We love the microphone. We love the crowds. We even love the community of speakers. But you talk about the wealthy side, being a wealthy speaker. So first of all, what is a wealthy speaker? Define it.
So the brand, The Wealthy Speaker, came out of me trying to figure out, okay, what is the formula I teach to professional speakers? I'm a coach. And so I had to really lay down exactly what my formula was going to be. And we named the very first book, The Wealthy Speaker. But it's evolved. Since that first writing, there was book number 1, 2, and now there's 3.0. And it's evolved because the wealthy speaker means that, yes, you're making a very healthy living as a professional speaker. You're getting paid really nice dollars to work.
Yep.
But also where I think the difference is you're living the life of your dreams. You are running the business isn't running you. And so we've probably seen that, right?
Oh,
In
yeah.
with our colleagues and friends, it's like, okay, it seems to me that you are running a little bit hectic, a little bit frantic. And if that's the way you're operating, then I don't think you're truly embodying what it means to be a wealthy speaker, which is somebody who is totally in control and doing it exactly on their terms.
I love that.
Yeah.
Now, you also have insights, but you were a former agent for speakers as well. And you used to do between 0 to 80 gigs. You would help speakers secure gigs.
Yes.
I'm curious the lens of now, the where we are post COVID, all the differences.
Hmm.
The stages are tougher. Sometimes they're smaller. So, what's it like looking through that lens of the agent? Speak from that side for a minute. Finding those wealthy gigs. Is it harder, easier? Or are they also the same?
I think the premise, whenever you feel yourself struggling to not have enough engagements, you've got to go back to the fundamentals. And the fundamentals for us are two things. Number one, being all in. This is all it takes to have success in the speaking industry. Number one, being all in, like that, all in committed mindset.
Yep.
So you need commitment. And then the second thing is just consistent action. And if you're doing those two things, then you are going to have success despite all the changes that we see going on in the world. It still really comes down to the same things, because a conference, what we learned during COVID was that a conference needs to be live, and that people need some sort of opening, get them jazzed up, going,
Yeah.
high energy speaker in the beginning, in the middle of the conference, at the end of the conference. They still need all the same things that they needed 30 years ago. And so we've been through the ringer, but
Yes.
uh,
Yes.
I think a lot of the fundamentals have stayed the same.
So you help people identify their weaknesses, their strengths, move past the barriers. We all have limiting barriers. And
Hmm.
you help them grow their business. What's the biggest distinction that you run in over and over and over again? It's like, oh my gosh, if I hear it one more time, I'm going to scream.
Well, like, if you're asking me what's the biggest challenge that speakers have,
Yeah.
the difference maker in terms of making or not making it, I think there's something that we talk about in the Wealthy Speaker 3.0, which is around picking a lane. Joe Calloway gave me that term a long, long, long time ago. And when you pick a lane and stick to your lane and become the expert in that lane and become the go-to person in that lane, it really is a game changer. And I know that there are a lot of speakers out there who have 3 or 4 lanes that they operate under.
Yeah.
And I would just say that that's not the easiest way to do it. And it's not the easiest way to get to the highest fees. The best way to get to the highest fees is by having kind of like one great idea that perhaps you get into a book. Maybe it becomes a bestseller, but maybe it doesn't. But those ideas are attached to your name. And the more simple, the funny thing is, here's what I've actually discovered, Rich, is that the more simple the idea, the better the traction it gets.
Okay, now that's worth mining. Why is it that way? Is it
It's not rocket science. Okay, so let's use Mel Robbins as an example.
Yeah.
I saw Mel Robbins speak, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago, let's say.
Yeah.
And I don't remember anything she said. She spoke about, I don't know, success or something like that. All I can remember was how she walked around in the audience with these really tall heels on. And I thought, wow, that's hard on the feet. I just was thinking about, good for you for being able to move like that in those stilettos. So then fast forward a few more years, and she comes up with, I don't even remember what the very first really sticky book that she had was, but it was about one concept.
Yeah.
sorry, my brain is not giving me the title of the book, but it became it. And the idea was kind of just do it.
Right.
If you're laying in bed and you're tempted to snooze the alarm, just do it. Just move through it. I think it was like a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 rule. Like, gosh, I
We'll
wish I
make
could.
people Google it. This is your challenge tonight,
Yeah,
audience. Go Google
this
the
is your
book.
homework. Go find out what Mel Robbins' first really best-selling book was, because that was a total game changer. And the idea of just doing it was not a new idea, but her new speech became just story after story after story of people just doing it.
So that's one of the attributes of a great speaker. You are got to be a great storyteller, don't you? You have
Yes, 100%. And the people, yes, they would remember the concept of the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, but what they would really latch onto would be the story of Susan, who was the backstory, and this is how she just did it. And so when she came to this one idea, and her new book is called Let Them. It's like, let them talk about you, let them do whatever they want. You just play your own game type of idea. Again, just like one concept,
right.
one simple concept that can take hold, that people can really easily, if your brand or your promise takes a lot of explaining, we have a problem.
So let me poke at this, because
Okay.
I know a lot of speakers that do have 2, 3 different hats, and they pivot and they turn to different one. Part of it is they've told me, I don't want to be bored talking about the same thing over and over again, because if I'm bored, it will show and the audience will be bored. So they intentionally are changing it up so they don't get bored. How do you fight that? How do you not get in that trap of, oh, I talk about the same pitch line one more time?
I know. I think what you do is you write a new book every 2 years and you elevate your topic. Okay. So there might be some new concept or some new offshoot of what you're talking about that really resonates with people. Well, let's drill down on that and go deeper on that. I get the boredom thing. I totally, I've heard speakers say, if I tell that story one more time,
Right.
I'm going to throw up. I totally understand that concept. And so you have to keep your content engaging for you so that you will want to continue to write and talk about it. That's why I love the idea of a book about the topic, because now there's like a whole new thread, and this is the new speech based on the new book. And then 2 years later, we've gone down a different path, all to do with kind of the same concept.
So can you make it today as a speaker without a book?
Yes, I think you totally can. I think there's lots of people out there who have. And the idea remains the same, only it's a new speech instead of a new book.
Is it an easier on-ramp today to have the book? Or does the speaking come first, then the book, or the book and then the speaking?
Chicken, egg, cart, horse. I don't think there's any truly right way to do this profession. I do think a lot of authors get kind of pulled into speaking a little bit unconsciously,
Yes.
without it being their intention, but it works really, really well for them because now they are an expert and they've been elevated, and then they go, oh, you want to pay me for this? Oh, there's a whole profession here. Now let me get educated and make that. So there's lots of accidental speakers.
Yes.
And so what we're moving them from is kind of unintentional to intentional. Let's build a business around this. You launch your book, that's a business. You launch a speaking business, that's a business. And so you launch a course, that's another business. And so every time you start a new income stream, you have to really give it the due diligence. And I think that's what I'm talking about, is being all in on the profession, because you really don't want to dabble as in any of those revenue streams. You don't
Well,
want to dabble.
weekend warriors never make it. They're always weekend warriors.
Well, until they get intentional and decide to put a business around it.
Right. Now, the speaker trade has a lot of noise. So what do you recommend to get money, get paid for gigs with all the noise out there so you can cut through and get to the front of the line?
So my coach gave me an analogy one time of if you wanted to bake a batch of chocolate chip cookies, you would go online, you would find the best recipe, and then you would follow the recipe step by step. You wouldn't go out and find a bunch of recipes and start piecemealing them together. And that's actually what we see a lot of speakers doing, the weekend warriors. They go and they see a YouTube video. Oh, I'm going to try that. And they read a book. Oh, I'm going to try that. And they're just taking ingredients from
Yeah.
lots of different recipes. And then they don't ever have like a strong strategy. And so that's why in the early days, a lot of people would ask me, how did you get Vince, for instance, from 0 to 80 engagements a year, from 0 to $1 million in fees? How did you do that? And so that's where we developed this ready, aim, launch process. And it just follows the formula. And that, I think, is the secret to our success and the secret to all of our clients and students' success is that they're just following the formula and taking all the right consistent actions.
So a lot of us that are in this long term, we do watch each other. We are in this fraternity. We are aware of each other. We do shows together. But I know you had a special connection with Les Brown at one point. But who did you look at? Who did you study to say they're doing it right? I want to pay more attention to them.
Well, Les Brown was the reason I got into the biz.
Yeah.
So I saw his PBS Live Your Dreams special. I recorded it on VHS tape. So that gives you some idea of how long ago this was. VHS, by the way, is something you used to stick into a machine and watch on your TV. And I watched it over and over and over again at 25 years old. So I'm 60 now. So you do the math on that.
Hey, we're right there together. Yay!
At 25 years old, I hadn't read a book since college. I hadn't thought about making my car my university on wheels. He gave me all these ideas that were like just amazing to me, and I digested them. But then when I got into the speaking business, representing my first speaker, her name is Betska K. Burr, and she was a leadership expert. We studied at the feet of Tom Winninger. Tom Winninger from Iowa was Waterloo, Iowa. I listened to his formula, and basically his formula was kind of like what we now call the ready, aim, launch formula. You know, it's basically a numbers game, and the goal is that you're going to plant X number of seeds, and that if you nurture those seeds, you'll get the harvest. And so I started back in the day doing 30, 40, 50 phone calls a day. That was back when we were phone calling more than emailing. And, some of these things are coming back. We used to send out things in the mail. People don't really do that anymore. So maybe we bring it back, right? So there's a lot of different ways to do the business, but we follow that ready, aim, launch formula.
So when it comes to pitching yourself, I don't think I've ever met a speaker that loves pitching themselves. I don't care who they are. It's the hardest thing in the world. But we've done one sheets, we've done videos, we've done the phone calls, we've done text messaging. In our current area today, how important is the video side of this for pitching yourself?
I think video has become incredibly important because it's so available now. And when you're a speaker, you want to be seen speaking. You want to be seen doing your thing.
Yep.
And so do we say it's impossible to get booked without a video? No, especially at the early lower fees. let's say like 5,000 and under, you
Yep.
might be able to get away without a video, and that's fine. But when you start to eke your way up towards 10, 7,500 and 10, people are going to expect. And if you're having a really hard time getting some video, stage a showcase. We have a whole chapter on that in the book, because it's something that you can control. Put
Yeah.
100 people in a room, bring in a couple of cameras, and you can run your own showcase that way, and it will actually turn into a lot of business as well. So it's kind of twofold.
Well, and you can pull in other speakers and make it a co-promotion, and
Exactly.
everyone wins out, but you're going to win out by being the one that put it together. They're going to love you for putting it together, and you
Yes.
all get video content.
Yes. That's a great idea. And a lot of chapters of NSA and
Yeah.
CAPS here in Canada are doing things like that. CAPS is the Canadian Association of Professional Speakers. NSA is the National Speakers Association, in case anybody doesn't know. A lot of chapters will do showcases and things like that will allow you to get some video footage, because I think it is really important. And now, do you need like a really slick, lots of bells and whistles? Not really. They just really, if I'm hiring you, if I'm spending $7,500 to bring you into my stage,
Yeah.
I just want to see you in action. I want to see you telling stories. I want to see you and just how you move about the stage and how your vibe. I want to see all that before I spend the money.
So there's this other thing about, if you price yourself too low, people are not going to look at you. You go
Yeah.
too high, you really have to be the Les Browns and the Tony Robbins and everything else. Where's that sweet spot for the speaker that wants to make the jump, but doesn't want to go too far? But
Oh,
where and how do they place themselves there? Because I've
that's
never been there before.
Oh, it's so slippery, right? This slope.
Yes.
So it used to be that a $10,000 speaker was a really highly well-paid speaker, and that's not really the case anymore. I would say more like 30,000 is
Yeah.
probably more that. The average booking at a lot of speakers bureaus is perhaps up above 15,000. So just to give you an idea, a lot of people think that speakers bureaus can launch them, and they don't really do that. Their average fee is already sitting at 15. So I think the way you raise your fees is what's important.
Yeah.
And here are the reasons why you might raise your fee. Number one, you constantly share the stage with speakers who you know are getting higher prices than you. Number two, you have a new book or a new achievement of some sort. Number three, your clients say they would have paid more. Your clients tell you that you're inexpensive. Wow, you're such a bargain. Um, and of course, supply and demand. Your calendar is as full as you want. You want 4 speaking engagements a month and you're sitting at 4. Now it's time to pop your fee up. I think when you go by that, you're not really thinking about, am I going to be too high or too low? If you're too low, the perception is that you're not as good as you are. And so there's a problem with a perception problem. And so starting out, there are people who might come out of a big CEO job and they might pop themselves up to 10,000 right away without
Right.
going up the food chain of, 2,500, 5,000, 7,500. They might just start at 10K, because remember, they're not paying you for the 45 minutes. They're paying you for the 30 years of experience that went into the 45 minutes.
Leverage that. Leverage it. And a lot of people are leveraging what they speak, but they aren't leveraging the whole package of what they bring.
Yes.
And that's really dicey for some people, of blending the whole universe. Well, how do you advise? How do you help them mold? Because I'm always about the brand of you. You are the brand. And
Mm-hmm.
people push back, say, no, I want to speak on this. And I'm like, no, you're the brand. And they don't understand, this is the new world we live in. You have to resonate as the brand, right?
Well, I think that you and your content can be packaged up together. Okay, so we know that there really aren't a lot of new ideas out there, but the way that you share your ideas, combined with beautiful stories that people latch onto, I think your content and you tend to go hand in hand. And so what they're buying when they're spending $20,000 to have you speak is the fact that you've written 2 or 3 books in order to get here, that you've had a lot of content that you have seeped through and come out the other end. Think of it like a funnel, right? There's
Yeah.
a ton of content out here,
Yep.
and you have distilled it all down to this one idea that helps to solve this one problem. I think that they're paying to solve the problem, and you as the problem solver can get paid whatever the expert charges.
Now, there's always the back of the room sales, but those have somewhat dried up. But there
Mhm.
is the option to do a workshop, to do a bonus thing. And I'm hearing more and more, some of the speakers are willing to do those for free if you pay your $20,000 upfront to have them keynote. What do you recommend when it comes to those other side journeys you can take at a conference?
Well, I want to talk about the back of the room sales,
Yeah,
because my goal is for that all of my clients who have books to pre-sell that, to make it a part of the package so that everybody in the audience takes a piece
yes,
of you home and they continue. So how long would you like this learning to last, is the question you ask the
yeah.
decision maker. Oh, well, of course, I want it to really go deep. Okay, well, what we can recommend is that this book might be a great leave behind for everybody. And conference rooms now sometimes even have chairs built in with places to put books,
Yes.
which is amazing. So there's that. But I love popping up somebody from a keynote fee to a full day fee when we add in a workshop. And you know that you're going to have higher chances of spin-off the more time you spend with the client.
Yeah.
So I'm really in favor of doing it. Now, I know what some people will do, and I think you've had David Averin on your show.
Yes, I have.
So he'll fill out a request for proposal, and they'll want to hire him for a breakout spot. But he says, I'll do the breakout for free if you get me the keynote spot.
Yes.
And, but at full fee. And so he'll do that for free.
Mhm.
And I think it's just a great add-on. It's a great value add, but it also is a win-win because you're probably going to walk away with more business that way.
Yes.
And if it's at a conference where there's tons of people from different companies, that breakout session is where you're really going to be able to kind of roll up your sleeves with people. And I think that's probably a big game changer in terms of getting those spin-off.
Such a touch on the virtual. Do the speakers today really need to learn how to rock the virtual stage, which was the original name of this show?
That's right. Well, it just depends on if they're getting asked for it. I interviewed Pamela Barnum, who is a client of mine, a former undercover police officer turned prosecutor, and speaks on body language and other things. And she's doing some really, really big stages, and maybe about 20% is still virtual.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say you want to be equipped for it, because it's probably going to happen for most people.
What's the most outdated thing that a speaker can do right now to put the nail in the coffin for them? And there's something that, please stay away from this because you're going to hurt yourself very badly.
Well, I don't know if it's outdated, but it's kind of research based. So if you speak at noon and you don't sit through the keynote in the morning,
Yeah.
you might miss out on something. When you say something that somebody's already said, or if you're not dialed into the fact that the company had to lay off 500 people this morning,
Right.
or anything that is frontline news. I really think that a speaker needs to do their due diligence and be very current in terms of what was going on before you got there at the conference, so that they can tap into that and make their presentation even more effective. One of the master's level tips that I used to see Joe Calloway do incredibly effectively was making people in the audience the hero of his stories. And it's such a beautiful thing to see, and they feel good, and we of course want to choose somebody who's well liked by everybody, and that's doing your research and doing your homework ahead of time, so that when you walk in you can call out these people. And audiences love it, especially if you can. Joe used to sit and interview the CEO of the company and make them the hero, which I think is, of course, if the CEO is the one paying the tab, they're going to love that. I mean, how could they not love that, right? When somebody makes you look good, you're going to love them.
Well, and recently I was with some event planners, and they mentioned several names of people who are really good at thanking the event planners. They're behind the scenes. They've done all the work. They bust themselves to make you look good on the day of. But very rarely do they hear
From
anything back. How important is this today, especially, to keep them in the loop and make them feel appreciated? Because it can go chirp, 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 no gigs very quickly, can it?
Well, I think it is very important. It's always been important. I don't think it'll ever not be important to value and appreciate the people who have sent the paycheck, and the people who have done a lot of the behind the scenes work to so sending out a beautiful gift. Yes, if you can mention them from the stage, I think that really it takes it to a new level. But also think about spending some money on a beautiful gift, because I think that a box of popcorn may not do it.
In a tin, it has Christmas on it in July. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that there are some really lovely things that I've seen being given as gifts that people will treasure, and I think it's nice when you do that.
How big is it to have a charity or cause? I'm more and more winding that into everything I do, to have a cause beyond your speaking, but maybe looped into your speaking. So I speak on stuttering. That's one of the areas I focus on. I love meeting people that stutter, talking about it, but also helping charities and outlet. How important is it to have something bigger than yourself that links in, that people can go, they're a good guy, they're a good gal, they're really helping people beyond the stage?
Well, I don't know that I would do it from a PR perspective, but a lot of people get asked to speak regularly, either pro bono or low bono. And I think that having a plan for that is a really great idea. And so you might decide that if anybody from these three agencies comes to me, these three nonprofits, maybe it's heart and stroke or cancer or something that's affected your family. Alzheimer's is the one for me. When it's that, whatever they need, I'll go and do it. And you might assign, okay, I'll do one freebie a month, or I'll do 6 a year or 10 a year, or whatever you want to do. Again, it's all about building a business that makes you feel happy and you feel good. And you can tithe it back in whatever way looks perfect for you. And some people will do a lot more than others. They'll start a foundation. They'll, speak every week at their church, whatever. It's totally up to you, because this is your business to run however you see fit.
When it comes to scaling up, most people look at their calendar, they try to have a plan for the calendar. You mentioned having a plan earlier, but is there a natural progression you advise people on, of a 1 year or 2 year escalation, so they don't just go from 0 to hero and then they get frustrated they didn't move the line? Is there a good rhythm for that?
Well, I think that 100K is typically the first goal financially, and then 250 and kind of on up to $500,000 and beyond. And what I would say to people is, and I actually did write a book, I don't have it at my fingertips, called Scaling Your Speaking Business.
Mm-hmm.
And to go beyond 500,000 takes some serious thought. You need to maybe be thinking about other revenue streams aside from speaking.
Okay.
You need to be thinking perhaps about consulting. Big consulting contracts can really be a game changer in somebody's income stream, because you can only trade your time for money so much.
Yeah.
As you get to the 500,000 mark, you will recognize that in order to get to 1,000,000, you're going to have to do more speaking. And most people want to go backwards in terms of being on the road. So that's why I think you should have a goal in mind or an idea in mind of how to not have everything be transactional. I will give you this much money if you come and speak for us. How can we do things that are beyond that one transaction? Maybe it's an online course. I have an online course. It's not the easiest thing to do, I will say. I've been doing it for over 10 years and it's really hard. And
Mm-hmm.
we're changing it again this year. We're going to focus all our efforts on our Wealthy Speaker School Mastermind because that's where our people get the best results. And so, I just think you need to be thinking about your whole umbrella and all the different revenue streams and how are we going to get there based on these numbers, because speaking can probably only be one part of it. Now, there are people out there who just keep raising their fee,
Right.
and speaking a ridiculous amount each year.
Right.
To me, 70, 80, 90 times a year and above speaking, you're not necessarily having a great family life and a balanced lifestyle.
Well, and I've also heard because the travel can be a real headache when you're on the road and you're cleaning out there. There's the snow, the whatever.
Yeah.
Everyone begins to scramble and go crazy. So
Yeah.
I've always told my friends and colleagues, pad your days, get in early, pad an extra day in the second half, and if you're going to pad days, do a mini vacation, have a small little charity gig, do something else outside the one event, but don't just fly in and fly out and expect it to go naturally easy, right?
Yeah, that's really, I think that the travel post 9/11, post COVID is what I wanted to say. The travel has really changed and it's gotten, having a flawless day of travel is more of an anomaly than not anymore.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Is there a scenario, and I've never asked this to anybody, it's just like, boom. Is there a scenario you can become king of a region? Forget about all the travel, forget about everything else, but you can say, I am going to be in, like you said, Waterloo earlier. Waterloo, Ames, Iowa, Cedar Rapids. You are going to be the Iowa king of speaker. Is there a way to do that?
Or queen.
Yeah.
I think it is possible to be a regional success, but you have to be aware of how much your region will pay. Okay. So I think that might be an idea on your way up in fees.
Okay.
Versus the other way around. You've been out speaking for many, many years. Your fee is $10,000 or $15,000, and now you want to do more local. If you're in a small regional area, that might be a little tricky.
Yeah.
But that's where maybe those consulting contracts and things like that might come in. And I love getting together with people face to face when that's possible. And so I think doing that type of thing locally could be very much in your favor. And, maybe you insert yourself and get really, really involved with some sort of local group of entrepreneurs that allows you to build that.
Well, Jane, great conversation. We're going to show you out your website here. Look at that smiling face. So what are they going to find there when they go to your website and check out all the books and all the goodies you have there?
Well, I have written 6 books. I think 4 of them are probably out there on the website. The Wealthy Speaker 3.0, though, is the one that if you don't know me at all, that's the one to start with. They'll also find that I do private coaching and that we have the Wealthy Speaker School, which is now drilling down to the Wealthy Speaker Mastermind, and they get coaching and everything involved with that. And it's really, really good. So they'll see all those links out at speakerlauncher.com.
Check it out, speakerlauncher.com. You know, there's 101 questions still read them because there's so much to mine and get out of all the speaker, and it's ever changing. I'm going to go back to the idea of you want to get those big bucks. You really want to scale yourself up. But you've also got to get in that niche where you're known as the rock star of that niche.
Mm-hmm.
What are some tips to not burn out, to keep yourself when you're off the stage with family and friends? What's the way to keep you healthy and balanced so it's not just work, and all you say is blah, blah, blah?
I think you have to bring your daily routines with you on the road.
Oh,
Yeah. And I'm not talking about hauling around 10-pound dumbbells, but maybe if you're somebody who exercises every day, maybe you go walking and you bring some resistance bands with you. I think it's so easy to slip into bad eating habits when you're traveling. So you need to bring it with you. You need to, bring your shake materials or whatever it is that you're doing at home. I think that's the best way to get out of balance is every time you travel to be completely untethered to your morning routine and to the things that do good for you. All these hotels that we're staying in, they all have gyms. You can go and sit in a quiet place and do your morning journaling or your meditation or whatever it might be. Just really making sure that you take all of the good habits that you have at home with you on the road.
Final question. You're sitting down, you're having a conversation with a speaker that's been going at it for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
They're on the end of giving up. What would be your advice for someone that says, look, I've never made the wealth. I've never made it. I love to speak. I love the crowd. What do you do?
We actually have a chunk of our coaching now that revolves around mindset. And that person may be telling themselves, you know how we can be our own worst enemy, right?
Oh, yeah.
That person may be telling themselves, I don't know, I'm too old. I'm burnout. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm not excited about this. And my goal would be to talk about getting intentional with what's going on in their mindset in order to really and you know what, sometimes people are done, and if they're done, okay, well, let's take what you know and let's see if we can apply it to something that you will get excited about. So
Yeah.
sometimes we need to transition and move away from something that's been working for a long time, but a lot of times it just begins with some sort of weird thought that's in your head that's unintentional, and we want to move it towards something that's really empowering. Right at the beginning of COVID, I had about 3 days of thinking, oh no, we're in big trouble. My central thought was my industry's been wiped out.
Yes.
So that led to like a lot of frantic things. I'm telling my husband we're going to need to sell the house. I mean, we're in big, big trouble here. And so my buddy Chris West of Video Narrative, you might know Chris, he came to me and he said, Jane, people need us now more than ever.
Yeah.
And I wrote that down on a Post-it note. People need me now more than ever. And so we actually put together something that would be helpful for people. It's called Brand Camp. And we ran this program that was really, really helpful to people. And he brought me back from the brink. And the whole thought went from my industry's being wiped out to people need me now more than ever. It was like a light switch. Business flowed into me. It was incredible. And I would say that for most people, their mindset and their thoughts could be what's getting in their way if they're not getting exactly what they want.
What a great way to wrap up. That's fantastic. Jane Atkinson, thank you very much for being on Rock the Stage today. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That's Jane. And again, check out her book, check out her website, learn more about what she's got going on, because the industry is alive. There's a lot of great stuff. And if you're just getting into it, get yourself wrapped around other fellow speakers. We're really not in competition. I said that at the beginning of the show. Some of my best friends are fellow speakers. We talk about what we're doing. We're talking about what we're creating, how we're adapting, what's working on. Instead of being a competitor, be a part of a community. The Canadian side of things, a great community up there, National Speakers Association here in the States, and many, many others. But if you're interested in getting into it, I can tell you, it's one of the greatest, most fun, exciting things you could ever be a part of. That's going to do it for this week of the edition of Rock the Stage Show. We'll be back next week, 7 o'clock Eastern Time, every Sunday night. We have a great conversation. And again, they're always unscripted. We don't know where they're going to go, but I promise it's always fun, and you're going to get something out of it with the amazing guests, whether they're an actor, director, writer, or a keynote speaker. That's going to do it for this week. I'm the Trigger Rich Bontrager. We'll see you back next week for another edition of Rock the Stage Show.